Thank you for staying tuned. You're still watching Morning Delight on Lagos Television, and it's time for Talk Time. We promised you earlier on that we'll be staying with the security issues, and of course this time around we'll be dwelling more on intelligence gathering, and of course these issues of insecurity in and around our nation, Nigeria. And of course we have someone who should know in house today, and of course we kept some of your messages, for him. Yeah, so he'll be answering some of them today, and he is Navy Commodore Kunle Olawunmi, retired. He is also the head of Department Criminology and Security at Christian University in Abeokuta. Security studies, I mean. All right. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. For over more than a decade now, we've been grappling with the issue of insecurity. We talked about terrorism and banditry earlier on the show today. As a retired Commodore, taking a look at what you're taking an hindsight to when you were in the service, and of course right now, what do you think we need at this point in time? A lot of things have been happening, but from your own point of view, at this point in time, what's the next step?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think I will just be very short. First of all, I want to talk to my community that I want to assure them of reticence, actually, because this is a topic that is very sensitive, and I know my community will be watching. So I just want to assure them that we're not going to go beyond the official secret act that actually governs us. But to answer your question, what we need right now is leadership. It's leadership. Because when you look at the concept itself, intelligence is it's a product. It's like a car. You put a lot of things together and you come up with a product. And for you to do that, the beginning is for you to have what we call the commander's intelligence requirement. If you look at the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the intelligence and security aspect in the Constitution, that's in the 1999 Constitution as amended, is in the exclusive list. And some of the pundits that are listening to me will understand what exclusive list means. It means basically that this is a sacred area that is governed by the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Nigeria. So I think what we need at this time is leadership.
All right. Let's ask this question this way. A lot of people would associate intelligence gathering to stopping the crime from happening. Just almost saying that's crime prevention. Would you align with that school of thought when Nigeria has been clamoring for intelligence gathering in the fight against insecurity in Nigeria, banditry, terrorism, farmers, herders, clashes, asking for intelligence to go in? Are they asking that the crimes be prevented?
Yeah, I think I won't say the answer is, the question is right or wrong, but usually when things like this happen in Nigeria, you discover that people will attribute it to intelligence failure. In other words, those professionals that are supposed to actually provide timely intelligence, if they don't do so, then you are going to have a situation on your hand as we have now. But Nigerian case is a little different. Intelligence is actually at the level I would like to discuss. It's not really about crime prevention, because we have about two major layers. When you're discussing professional intelligence, you talk about the strategic level. That's strategic intelligence, and this governs a lot of space, including political, economy, military, and so on. Then you have operational intelligence, which is the realm you are talking about. You see, at operational level, we still break it down to the tactical aspect, okay? And you also have different agencies that actually runs this program. You have the core military and you have the paramilitary. So when you look at intelligence, you're not talking about Army, Navy, Air Force alone.
And they all have various mandates.
They have various mandates. I mean, look at what is happening in Nigeria. The mandate is actually housed or warehoused with the immigration and customs, for example. And I know that they have their own intelligence unit. Before you even talk about the SIB, that's the police. Because what we're having is a porous border where criminals, elements from Mali, from Niger are coming into Nigeria in droves, unfettered. So what are the immigrations doing? What are the customs doing? Look at the number of arms that are in Nigeria. The research I did before coming for this program shows that we have more than 6 million small arms in the hands of bandits in Nigeria. And when you compare it to the amount of arms the regular militaries are having, it's even less. So we have more arms out there, more than even what the military has. So the various organs have to do their own bits. If you have somebody in charge of customs, he has to do his bits because arms are coming in from outside. Some of these arms you see are not made in Nigeria. They are not made in West Africa. They are not made in Africa. AK-47 is not made in Africa. So how do they get in? To the point of you are having more than 6 million small arms in the country. So we cannot just look at every time military intelligence. Military intelligence. It's not about military intelligence. It's about the entire gamut of strategic structure that starts from the commander-in-chief to the Senate Committee on Defense, up down to the National Security Advisor, then to the list, even the civil defense. They have their own intelligence unit. So if you want to talk about intelligence failure, it cut across the entire gamut of the civil society.
Well, all was we hear needs intel, of course, signals of intelligence. We know that Nigeria has its own peculiarity. Maybe things that work it's somewhere else may not work in Nigeria. Are there other ways? We talked about the use of technology. Are there other ways that Nigeria can tap into and we are not doing enough at this point in time?
Yeah, I think that would take me to the entire spectrum of intelligence itself. You know, you look at what are those things that constitute intelligence? You know, let's start with what we call open source intelligence. Newspaper, media. People are listening to me. They are gathering intelligence. CIA, they are listening to me. They are gathering intelligence. They are listening to everything I say here. So that's open source. And that's why I have to be careful what I say here. Then you look at human intelligence. It's another aspect. And that's what we use more in Nigeria. You know, you tell the civil society to, when you hear something, you say something. That is human intelligence. Then you have to go to the next level of what we call SIGINT. That's signal intelligence. Then you have to go to the point when you get to the tactical or operational aspects. You talk about ELINT. That's electronic intelligence. It's completely different from SIGINT, although people try to mix them up. Then the point we are in Nigeria is beyond SIGINT, ELINT. It's going to the level of what we call the geospatial intelligence.
Okay.
Whereby in the night you can see whatever is going on in all our forests. Because you have systems that can see everything that is moving in your forest. So why are we not using it?
We have them.
Yes, to some extent. Well, I think we have to do more. Nigeria has to do more. We have heavier payload that could help us in this particular aspect, because this is no longer a conventional issue. So we should be looking at how do we fight asymmetry. And these guys are moving in from Mali, Niger, and all this. We should be able to know if anybody crossed our border. We should be able to know if somebody is moving in the night. Because you have infrared sensors that will show that there's a human being moving in a particular forest at a particular day. And if there are hundreds of them, you should be able to know. So you have imagery system that can actually show you when people are moving and where are they moving to and how many of them. So we need to go a little bit higher than depending on human intelligence. We have to move to the realm of signal intelligence and electronic intelligence. And right now, we have to develop our geospatial intelligence. I should be able to stay in this studio and see what is happening in Sambisa Forest, for example. I should be able to be in this studio and see what is happening in Equatorial Guinea. Because the last time I was in Brazil, I went for a military exercise in Brazil, and the Brazilian wanted to show me what they have. They took me to their maritime control center. You can Google it; it's on the internet. They have a very, very good maritime control center, and they took me there. And it's like a studio like this where I am, and they asked me where will I like to see in Nigeria.
Put my house address.
And I said, I like to see the escravos. I want to see the maritime assets we have in escravos. And they pressed some buttons, and I could see the escravos. And I saw some ships moving. And they asked me whether I like to identify those ships. From Rio de Janeiro, they could identify the ships that are moving in our waters in Nigeria here. Because of what we call the ISPS code. There'll be no time for me to really lecture our audience about the ISPS code. With ISPS code, which was, an advancement in what we call International Maritime Organization. The ISPS code actually is what can make Nigeria to know every vessel that is moving in our maritime domain, from the coastline to 200 nautical miles at sea. We should be able to know what is going on there. And all these ships you see, they have a code. So if I sit in a studio, I can see a ship and I can tell you, okay, this ship is LTV ship, because they have their own signatures. Then when you talk about Sambisa Forest, which is ground, we have equipment that we can launch up there that can cover about 300 miles. And it's all weather capability. It's all time capability. In other words, in the night and day means nothing. You can see everything going on night and day, real time. And if you have two of this equipment with heavy payload, with satellite link, you should be able to see what is going on in all the forests in the southwest.
So where exactly is the problem? Because, I mean, this conversation is one we'll be looking forward to having all this while, even though you've somewhat just explained to us now that intelligence gathering is a lot more than we thought it was. What exactly is missing? Collaboration between all the agencies that you have mentioned, both land, sea, air, where exactly? We have funds that's been earmarked on a yearly basis to the Ministry of Defense in the fight against terrorism. And a lot of these equipment and all of this technology you have talked about, somehow, somewhere, we should have one or two of them. What is missing?
One thing that pundits don't understand about intelligence is that it's a process. It's a process. And let me tell you, I will just give you like 5 of the steps. There are about 6, but let me give you 5. The first step is what we call the commander's intelligence requirement, what the president, commander-in-chief wants to do. Then the intelligence officers will go to work. Then the next step they're going to do is what we call collation. They will collect data. They will collect information. When they collect, they will not collect. When they collect this information, what they do now is to try to process them. At the process level, what they are doing is to remove the wheat from the chaff. I mean, when you go on the media, you see a lot of what we consider social media fake news.
Not credible.
Yeah. So the job of the intelligence analyst is to decipher which one is true and which one is false. That's the processing. When you move to the next table, you're going to do what we call analysis. You're going to analyze all this information because they are coming from different sources. They're coming from the SIGINT, the ELINT, the HUMINT, they're coming from newspapers, they're coming from informants and so on. So you analyze them. When you analyze them, that is not the end of it. The professionals have finished their analysis. What are they going to do? They're going to disseminate back to the source that demanded for that product. That's the best they will do. That's the end of their job. So what the political class do with such analysis is beyond the intelligence practitioners. And if you say what is lacking, I've answered the first time. I think what is lacking is just leadership, because we've done this before. We've had these cases before. We have cases in Niger Delta before. And we had a president that actually, put that Niger Delta militancy to an end. It's the same process we went to. We've had Udi, Zakibian before. It's the same process. So if you have the right leadership, the men on the field that are listening to me now, they know their job. They are doing their job. But you cannot be superior to your commander-in-chief.
All right, sir. Only recently we have a replacement of the security service chiefs, and there's also the national security advisor to Mr. President. How much you talked about leadership, from the the service chiefs, national security advisor, then on to the president. There's a process. What more, can the security advisor do? Is that position or that office doing enough, in helping to tackle insecurity?
Yeah, one thing about security is that the practitioners, the professionals are different from those people that have what I would call on this program the oversight responsibility. There are oversight responsibility, especially in democracy. And sometimes the problem is usually the bureaucracy. There are a lot of bottlenecks, and I don't want to talk about interest because I don't want to be political here. There are a lot of bottlenecks. The National Security Advisor runs the structure the way it's supposed to be. I know that. The present National Security Advisor was the Chief of Defense Intelligence before. And I work with him at Defense Intelligence Agency. He's a very sound personality. And some of the other structures, they follow due process. They go through all the due process. You'll be surprised the amount of information they have on this insurgency. But that's all they can do. Leadership. So if the leadership now said, okay, go, then this will finish. And I'll give you an example of what happened during the Niger Delta militancy. When the men were killing people, I will mention their name, people like Tom Polo, Soboma George, Asari Dokubo, Ateke Tom, Henry Oka, when they were killing our men and soldiers in the creeks, because they have what they call a legitimate interest. They felt that they want to control their resources. But they went about it in a militant way, and they started killing our men. And the president then was President Musa Yar'Adua. He saw that there was a lot of politicking, interests, economic interests, political interests, social issue of tribalism, and so on was going on. And what he did was to call the same National Security Advisor, to call his men to order, put them in a room, and task them that I want this thing to finish, to end, because we can't continue to spend so much money and losing so much men, and we are also losing resources. And the National Security Advisor called the Chief of Defense Intelligence, called the National Intelligence Agency, Department of State Services, and they all sat down and came up with a blueprint. The first thing they did was to actually identify the center of gravity of Niger Delta militancy. What is the thing that when we remove from this agitation, then it will die? And I will liken it to fire. If there's a fire in this studio now, what we need to do is to start that fire of oxygen. If you can do anything, you can be running up and down and shouting, but if you don't start that fire of the oxygen, then the fire will continue to burn. So in the intelligence, when I say combat intelligence, what we try to do is to reduce the ambiguity that surrounds agitation. We limit it, we collapse it. And once we identify that center of gravity, we put all the resources of the state together, and we put the amount of power necessary to attack that center of gravity. Once you do, it's like removing the oxygen from fire. The fire will end. And that's what we did. Okay, we identify the core problem, and we attack it with all the necessary power. And President Yar'Adua gave us everything we needed to do that job. Now, if you look at what is happening in Nigeria, you talk about Boko Haram. They are ragtag. In fact, they are not as daunting as a challenge to what happened in the Niger Delta creeks. They are not. These are just hungry ragtag people that are just running around in the bush with AK-47. We're not talking about formidable men that are determined and they have enough resources in the Niger Delta. And Yar'Adua ended this in 6 months.
So what would you if, as a council now, if you were to brought in to just consult on this issue? We've gotten to this stalemate where solutions have been preferred left, right and center. We have people asking that should we negotiate, should we pay ransom? What would be the best way to attack it at this point we are now?
Okay, you see, like when I leave this studio now, I have another program with University of Ibadan. We talk about issue of peacemaking. There's a difference between peacemaking, peacekeeping, and what I've seen going on. For me, the solution to this problem right now, if everybody's watching me, the solution to this problem is to go after those guys that are sponsoring Boko Haram and the Fulani Herdsmen. The sponsor of these insurgencies are the people, the federal government, and I'm talking to them. They should go after those sponsors. Once you arrest all those guys that are sponsoring this, Boko Haram will collapse.
Do we have the detail?
Know them?
The federal government knows them. And my colleagues that are watching me, they know them. We know those people that are sponsoring them. If they don't know, Dubai helped us recently and arrested some Nigerians in Dubai that are sending millions of dollars to Boko Haram. We know them. If you arrest those guys, they will tell you who is giving them the money. You can easily trace them. So if you go after the sponsors of the Boko Haram, that is the center of gravity of this insurgency. The sponsors are the center of gravity. Don't pursue these boys in the bush. They are nothing. They are nobody. Go after these guys that are paying money.
The source.
I'm in the combat intelligence. I know what it takes for me to move 21 men from Lagos to go and attack an objective in Ibadan. It takes a lot. Logistics, communication, weapons, transportation, fuel, and so on. It takes a lot. How come these boys, if you catch them, you see that they can't even speak English. How do they move around? Who is paying them? Who's paying their way? Those are the people the federal government should go after. Once you go after the sponsors of Boko Haram, and those guys that are going to Futajalon Island, going to Mali, going to Niger, to use trailer to bring people in to come and start raping our civil society and killing them. But if you go after those people, you see that this thing will end. So you don't need to buy armor tanks or fighter jets or start looking at intelligence. And no, this one is a very simple process.
Negotiations.
Negotiation, I don't want to go into that. This is political because there are processes. I went to Harvard to study negotiation. Okay, this is not how it's done. The question is that who is he negotiating for? I don't want to mention them in the air. Who is he negotiating for? Is he representing the federal government in the negotiation process? Who sent him to negotiate? Is that how negotiation is done? There are 3 layers of negotiation, all right, but I don't want to lecture on what is going on in Nigeria. Yeah, what is going on in Nigeria is an aberration. You are not to negotiate on behalf of yourself. You negotiate on behalf of the government in the interest
of the government, the nation.
Of the Nigerian government. You don't negotiate in your own interest. So I don't see what is going on is an aberration. Yeah.
We wish we can go on and on, but we've have actually run out of time, and we hope that we can have you some other time so we can move on to some other ways into tackling the insurgency, terrorism, banditry, and whichever one's coming up. All right, then. Thank you so much, Navy Commodore Kunle Olawunmi, retired. Thank you so much,
it's
sir.
My pleasure.
Thank you. All right, as we always say, we all have a role to play, and of course, when everyone around you is doing something wrong, ensure you're doing something right. Do something great for your nation, Nigeria, and report whatever you see that is not, going on well. I am Adetola Kayode. Be kind to one another.
Attack the center of gravity is what a panelist has said here. If that means anything to you, I think the federal government has a lot more they can do in this fight, and Nigerian people will hold them accountable to that. It is important that we get this sorted immediately, like yesterday. All right, tomorrow is another day of Morning Delight. We will be here bright and early. Wednesday edition it will be. Until then, stay safe. I am Romelia Asanbedo. Bye for now.